Project 2025 is a wrecking ball aimed at the Department of Housing and Urban Development. We already have a high homeless population, and this will put even more people out on the streets. It's insane. We must resist Project 2025. We don't have to embellish how radical Project 2025 is. It's laid out for us in the text. But we are going to walk you through it word by word because to defeat Project 2025, we must actively resist Project 2025. At the end of this video, I'll give you specific steps to do just that. But first, I want all of you to go to your preferred social media channels. Search for Turn Left PAC and subscribe.
They're going to restrict program eligibility for low-income housing, which everyone who's ever tried for low-income housing knows how restrictive it already is. And there will be no interventions in regards to homelessness and unhoused people, which
there'll be no interventions for homelessness issues and programs and things like that. Let that sink in for a minute. And it's right here on page 503. They want to reset HUD. This effort should specifically include a broad reversal of the Biden administration's persistent implementation of corrosive progressive ideologies across the department's programs. So that's what taking care of the homeless population is now, an expenditure. I see. But let's be real about what's going on here. The Republican obsession with controlling women's bodies, gutting Social Security and Medicare, and tearing apart the Department of Justice has gone beyond the pale. They're gutting entire institutions, threatening the Department of Justice because they think school districts are somehow undermining girls' sports. It's absurd. They care more about what happens in a locker room than they do about the fact that our kids are going hungry, struggling in underfunded schools, or living in poverty. And why? Because the Republicans would rather protect tax cuts for the ultra-wealthy than provide a basic level of dignity for the people who built this country. What kind of message does that send? If you're not rich, you don't matter? Let's get to the heart of this cruelty. Project 2025. This is their most sinister plan yet. And they're not just talking about policy changes. They're planning to force millions of people onto the streets. These people are already living paycheck to paycheck, barely scraping by, and the Republicans want to pull the rug out from under them. But here's the kicker. They want to make it illegal to be homeless. You lose your home because their policies made housing unaffordable? Too bad. Now you're a criminal for not having a roof over your head. They want to keep the poor in a state of constant survival mode. It's not enough that people are struggling. They want to make sure that they can never get ahead. The message is clear. If you're poor, if you're underserved, if you're vulnerable, you don't deserve help. You don't deserve a place to live. You don't deserve the basic dignity of human existence. You deserve nothing but suffering. It's sickening. It's not just a radical plan. It's a full-scale attack on the institutions that protect the underserved and provide assistance. And here's the truth. They don't think people deserve that assistance. In their eyes, the poor, the disabled, the elderly, they're just burdens on the system. Project 2025 doesn't just want to dismantle the institutions that help people. They want to criminalize poverty. They want to create a system where the rich get richer and everyone else, they can fend for themselves without health care, without housing, without any safety nets. And let's not forget, they're doing all of this while handing power to unqualified political appointees who will do nothing but serve the interests of their wealthy donors. This isn't about policy differences. This is about cruelty as a governing philosophy. This is about dismantling the protections that millions of Americans rely on, and they're doing it with a smile. They're not hiding it. They're proud of this. This isn't conservatism. This is a radical power grab that will leave millions in the dust with no safety net, no home, and no future. So you may ask, how does Project 2025 dismantle HUD's mission and structure? Let me tell you exactly how. It reverses every single effort HUD has made to protect fair housing, affordable housing, and housing equality. And right here on page 504 of Project 2025, they literally outline the plan to hand HUD over to political loyalists. Forget about climate change efforts. Forget about affordable housing. It's all getting tossed in the trash. Their goal is to strip HUD's responsibilities and hand it to the states and local governments, which means fewer protections and less oversight. And who suffers? The people who need housing the most. Page 509 explicitly states they want to remove protections for mixed status families. You've got one undocumented person in your household? Boom, you're out of federally assisted housing. This is a full-blown attack on the poor and the marginalized. And you know who's behind this? It's the same guy who was sued for discriminating against tenants, Donald Trump. This is personal for him. It's revenge, plain and simple. This proposal isn't just about policy. It's about punishing the most vulnerable in society. And this is just the beginning. After the break, we'll get into why this is the most radical housing proposal in history and what that means for the future of this country.
When I ran for Congress, we flipped more Trump voters blue than any other congressional race in the country. We did this by calling out the GOP's lies and speaking truth against their million-dollar attack ads. I've now partnered with Turn Left, and we're taking the fight to the extremists like Marge the Trainwreck Green, Ted Cruz, and Josh Hawley, to name a few. And I'm asking each and every one of you all to donate $25 today to the group that is absolutely helping to send these jackaloons packing. It's time to speak truth to power and turn left.
HUD was created to ensure that all Americans have access to fair and affordable housing. But Project 2025? It's about gutting that entire foundation and leaving millions out in the cold. This isn't just about policy. This is about people and about lives and creating a homelessness crisis. So you may ask, has anything like this ever been proposed before? And the answer is simple. Absolutely not. Nothing on this scale. We've seen administrations come and go, and sure, they've made changes to HUD, but dismantling entire programs, removing nonpartisan professionals and replacing them with political lackeys? That's never been done before. Page 508 makes it crystal clear. They want Trump loyalists running HUD, not housing experts. This is radical, dangerous, and outright insane. So what's the human impact of all of this? The human impact will be devastating. People are going to lose their homes. We're talking about immigrants, low-income families, the disabled, and anyone relying on housing assistance. These are the people who will be left out in the cold, literally. Project 2025 is setting them up for failure. And the moment you strip away these protections, homelessness will skyrocket. And you think things are bad now? Just wait. Project 2025 is unquestionably radical. But here's the kicker. They're branding it as conservative. Is this really what conservatism stands for? After the break, we're going to dive into whether Project 2025 is even remotely conservative or just a bait and switch to grab power.
Today, we have an amazing show for you. Join myself, special guests, and celebrities.
What's going on, Ice-T? Andrew Yang.
Somebody else was hopping on.
Oh, hold on.
What's going on, battle?
As we roast GQP jackaloons. He may not be a real businessman, but he is one hell of a con artist.
That's what it is. That's what they got indicted for. Treason and sedition.
And it addresses the headlines of the day. They must be held accountable. Live streaming every night.
I got more time in a friggin' court in a friggin' combat zone than you probably got in the military.
This is Ojeda Live.
It says conservative in the title, but is it really conservative in principle? Hell no, it's not conservative. Let's not even pretend this is some traditional values. That's nonsense. There's nothing conservative about this. It's a full-on power grab. And right here on page 503, they call this a mandate for leadership. But what it really is a plan to gut HUD, funnel money into the pockets of political cronies, and let the housing market crash and burn for anyone who isn't in the top 1%. This isn't about gradual change or preserving anything. It's about control.
Our country is going to hell. The critical job of institutions such as Heritage is to lay the groundwork, and Heritage does such an incredible job at that. This is a great group, and they're going to lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what our movement will do and what your movement will do when the American people give us a colossal mandate to save America. And that's coming. That's coming.
Project 2025 isn't just a political buzzword. It's a direct attack on the systems that keep many Americans from losing their homes. Let's break it down in simple terms. Imagine you're already struggling to make ends meet. Rent's going up, and your paycheck's staying the same. And maybe you're just one emergency away from losing everything. Now, the government steps in and pulls the rug out from under you. They cut housing programs that help you afford rent. They take away mental health support that keeps you stable enough to hold down a job. It's like throwing people in the ocean and then pulling away the lifeboat. Under Project 2025, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, gets gutted. That's a fancy way of saying fewer resources, fewer options, and more people on the streets. It's not just about numbers. It's about real lives. Imagine moms and dads having to tell their kids they're moving into a shelter because rent became impossible.
And we have breaking news now. The Supreme Court has decided that cities can enforce bans on homeless people sleeping outdoors in West Coast areas where shelter space is lacking. In a 6-3 decision, the High Court reversed a ruling by a San Francisco-based appeals court that found that outdoor sleeping bans are cruel and unusual punishment. The case is the most significant to come before the Supreme Court in decades on the issue of homelessness and comes as a rising number of people in the U.S. are without a permanent place to live.
Then there's the Medicaid issue. You cut Medicaid, you cut off access to mental health and addiction services. And these are the very services that prevent a spiral into homelessness in the first place. Without them, people who are already vulnerable have nowhere to turn, and the street becomes their last option. That's why Project 2025 is so dangerous. It's designed to make the situation worse. And in the end, it's clear. Project 2025 doesn't care about the average American. It's set up to pull support from those who need it most. And if you don't have the safety nets in place, more and more people will fall into homelessness. This plan is a disaster waiting to happen, and those of us paying attention know it's going to make an already tough situation even worse. To defeat Project 2025, we have to act now. Our democracy is under attack, and that's why we launched resistproject2025.com. Here's the plan. With your support, we're launching direct attacks on the extremists pushing Project 2025 in their own districts. We're backing up our allies in critical House and Senate battlegrounds across the nation. We're going to help flip critical battleground districts blue by making sure voters know the dangers of Project 2025, using cutting-edge technologies to get the right message to right voters at the right time. We're taking the fight to the enemies of democracy, deploying tactics that campaigns can't risk using themselves, and forcing fascist MAGAs to spend their money defending their own turf. These are our resistance districts. We're not playing nice anymore. And when they go low, we fight, because when we fight, we win. It's not enough to win the White House. We need to secure a majority in the House and Senate, or else the freedom, security, and well-being of millions of Americans hangs in the balance. So supply the ammo we need to win this fight with a contribution today. Project 2025's dismantling of HUD will force millions into homelessness, jack up housing prices, and eliminate fair housing protections. This isn't about fixing the system. It's about rigging it. This isn't conservatism. It's a radical power grab using our tax money to turn federal agencies into tools for dictatorship. Share this video. Tag someone who needs to hear the truth and subscribe for more. And stay tuned next for Ojeda Live.